So I've been sitting here editing a bunch of the footage that I've taken of the trip, and I was thinking to myself how I want to present these videos. I mean, I've watched a lot of travel blogs, I've read a lot, I've seen a lot of pictures, and there's just a million different ways to do it. I know that I could just put videos and pictures of our trip and put a little fun little dialogue with it, but there's a million of those online already. And those are nice and all, but I want it to be personal, because when I read somebody else's blog or when I watch their videos, what makes it enjoyable for me is when I really get a chance to know the person and their story and what's going on with them while they're taking their travels. So that's what I want to do with mine. I want to tell a story with my videos. And it occurred to me that if I want my videos to tell a story, and I just tell you that story of my travels, that it's going to seem out of context. It's not going to make a lot of sense. It's going to be like one chapter of a book. And if you haven't read the chapter 3, 4, and 5, chapter 6 isn't going to make a lot of sense. So the only logical way that I can do this, I believe, is that if I tell you a little bit about the story that brought me here, why I'm on this trip, and why it means so much to me personally. But the hardest part about any storytelling is figuring out where to start, how far back to go. Well, with me, for this to make any sense at all, I have to go all the way back to the day that I was born. Because see, I wasn't just born to any average normal mother. No, I was born to a mother that had a gypsy spirit. And even though by the time I was born, I was her last child, she was trying to figure out how to settle down in the world, and her traveling days were kind of behind her, she still installed that gypsy spirit in me. My whole life I've had itchy feet, always wanting to get out and find somewhere new to explore, something new to experience. I dreamed of being a world traveler and setting my foot in the type of places most people can't even imagine going. As a child, my heroes, my idols, were those people who were not afraid to put their lives in danger if it meant experiencing something new, experiencing something that this beautiful earth had to offer that you wouldn't get to experience any other way. So growing up my whole life, I couldn't wait until the day that I turned 18, the day that I became an adult, and I could just get out there and go. That I could do whatever I wanted, and I could see the world, and I could see the oceans, and I could see the countries, and nothing could hold me back. But then real life happened. See, I got married. Well, I actually got married really young. I was 19 years old. Probably too young. I thought I knew exactly what I wanted, but as any of you that have been married before or that are older than 19 and can look back at yourself when you were 19 years old, you know 19-year-olds don't know what they really want. They think things are different. So no matter how much anyone told me what I should or shouldn't be doing, I didn't listen. I found a woman that I thought was perfect for me. I thought she was the one I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with. I thought she was going to be my partner, to go out and explore the world with. And for the first year of our marriage, it was amazing. But unfortunately, it didn't take very long after that for us to realize that my idea of adventure and her idea of adventure just weren't really the same thing. What she wanted in life and what I wanted in life weren't really compatible. So I did what any good husband would do. I gave up my hopes and dreams and goals and lived the life that she wanted, or at least what I thought that she wanted. And we did the best that we could, and we made it work for almost 8 years. But at some point along the journey, we had to admit to ourselves that I couldn't be the person she wanted me to be, and she couldn't be the person I wanted her to be, and it just wasn't working. I mean, don't get me wrong, that part of my life was not without adventure. We lived in 3 different states. I had all kinds of crazy fun jobs. We made 2 amazing children together. And I learned a whole lot about what it means to be an adult and what life is really like when you don't have your parents there to tell you how to live your life. It was an experience that I had to go through to make me who I am now. But unfortunately, for that time that I was with her, I had to put a lot of my dreams, especially my dreams of touching the untouched parts of the world, I had to put those on hold. So as you probably figured, that relationship and that chapter of my life came to an end. But when that ended, something else wonderful started. I found the love of my life. She was the most beautiful, amazing, and adventurous woman that I could ever dream of. She truly was the person that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. You see, every moment with her was just honestly isn't any words that I can put it into. It's that feeling that every single songwriter has been trying to capture and put into words since love songs were first invented. But if any of you listen to a lot of love songs, you realize that they not only try to tell us about that amazing love, they also tend to teach us that life tends to be very cruel. And most of the time when something seems too good to be true, it is. See, when I met Trisha, she was sick. She was very sick. She had a chronic illness. In fact, it was the same chronic illness that had taken her mom's life just 4 months before I had met her. But I was able to spend 7 years, 7 months and 30 days by her side. Some of those days, she was so bad that she couldn't even get herself out of bed. But there were other days where her adventurous spirit was able to force her feet onto the ground. And those are the days that we had some of the most amazing memories. I could go on for days and days about the amazing times we had together, the experiences I was able to experience, the lessons I was able to learn. But I'll probably save that for another time. So even though her illness was progressing quickly, it never stopped us from dreaming, from hoping, and praying about a day that she would get better. A day that we could both go on the type of adventures that we really truly dreamed of. A day we could have a life that everyone would be jealous of. Because we just knew that if she was able to get past this sickness, there would be nothing holding us back. So what did we do? We planned for that life. We planned for the type of life that we wanted. And as most people know, living an amazing life, well, it takes money. So when you're planning properly, you've got to plan for that. And any logical person knows that if you want a life of ultimate freedom, where you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, your average 9-to-5 job just really isn't going to cut it. So what we did with me and my very talented and clever wife decided that the quickest way to total financial freedom and independence was to sell the house that we lived in, move into a cheaper house, and take the rest of that money and invest it. Specifically, invest it in real estate. So what we did was we bought a cheap foreclosure and we fixed it up. You see, her illness kept her from doing much of the physical work. But that's okay, because I like doing the physical work. I like doing the manual labor, and I'm good at it. But it left her to do everything else. She balanced the budget, she planned the designs, she picked the colors, she called people when we needed to make appointments, she did all the permits and the planning and all the paperwork and the taxes and all the other stuff that goes along with flipping houses, leaving me to just focus on doing the physical part of it. And it worked out great. We made such an amazing team. Our first house, we were able to flip in just 4 months, and we sold it for over twice what our original investment was. So we did it again. We bought another foreclosure. 5 months later, we had doubled our money once again. It was amazing. So by the time we got our second house sold, we'd actually gotten some really good news from the doctors. We got on a better insurance plan, and were able to take her to specialists up in Portland, and they were giving us some amazing news. They were giving us hope. They were saying that things were looking good. They had new technology, new medicine that they thought could do a lot of good. So we bought 2 more houses. Our plan was to fix those 2 houses, as well as the cheap house that we were living in. And by the time we had done those 3 houses, we'd have enough money that we could just quit working altogether. And if she had gotten better, we could just go and not worry about anything anymore. But like most great love stories in history, mine didn't end with that happily ever after. Instead, it ended with a tragedy. Nearly overnight, her disease progressed so quickly. She went from being full of hope and joy to just 3 weeks after that, which happened to be exactly to the day 8 years after her mom had passed away, Trisha's life was over. I not only lost my wife, I lost my best friend, my adventure partner, my business partner, the stepmom to my children, as well as the future that we had planned together. It felt like my life ended with hers that day. But unfortunately, or fortunately, my life couldn't end. I had people counting on me. Specifically, I had 2 children. And they needed me. They needed me to fight to give them the best life that I could. Well, anyways, that was about 9 months ago now. And the last 9 months, well, honestly, it's been total chaos. Remember how I said we had bought 2 more houses? Well, guess what? I still have them, both of them. The first one I started working on, it's ended up being such an insane project I can't even put it into words. What I thought would just be 4 or 5 months has turned into a year and a half. I had to replace the foundation, the septic, the roof, everything. I'm essentially rebuilding this house from the ground up. But now I don't have my partner to help me with it anymore. So I'm not only doing all this extreme labor by myself, I have to do the taxes and the paperwork and everything that Trisha helped me with by myself. It's pushed my skills and my stress levels to a point that I didn't even know was possible to go. And just to top it off, it's about 60-mile drive from that house to where I live. That means every single day I've got a 120-mile commute. Almost 3 hours of driving. The other house? Well, I was smart enough to realize I'm not going to be able to fix that up anytime soon. So I rented it out to some people that I know that needed a house to live in. But what that did? Well, now I'm a landlord. So now I've got that whole long list of headaches that comes with being a landlord. And all that extra work to do. Oh yeah, and I have a third house, the one I'm living in. In case I forgot to mention it, it's built in 1905, so that makes it 115 years old now. So as you can imagine, it's constantly needing love and attention to keep it in a livable state. And aside from that, both of the cars that I drive, my work van and my daily commuter, are older cars with a lot of miles. And all this driving that I'm putting on them makes the maintenance and repair just insane. In the last 6 months, I've had to replace the transmission in my van. I've had to rebuild the top end, the head gasket on my car. I've had to replace a dented front A-beam component. And I've had more oil changes than I can even count. Oh yeah, and one more thing I think I forgot to mention. While Trisha was still alive, we adopted a senior dog. Some of you may have met him, Pancho. He was amazing. But by the time Trisha left, Pancho was 19 years old. So he needed so much attention. I had to hand cook his food every day. He couldn't go on long walks, so I had to take him on short walks, at least 3 of them every single day. And he couldn't control himself, so he was having accidents all day long, all over the house that I had to clean up. Well, he passed away shortly before Christmas, but that's still been such a difficult thing to deal with, to handle by myself. But yeah, and on top of all that, I've been homeschooling my daughter Susie this whole time. So every day after I make dinner, I have to help her do all of her schoolwork. And speaking of dinner, we're on kind of a restrictive diet. So I can't just go out to fast foods every day after work. When I get home from work, I have to cook a full meal 100% from scratch. Every single day. So as you can imagine, that doesn't leave me a lot of time for myself. So no matter how lonely, brokenhearted, or depressed I am, being social or spending time for me has kind of been put on the back burner. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a computer with a whole bunch of applications running at one time? Well, what happens? It starts going real slow, right? And if it's an older machine, or you've got a whole bunch of stuff open, maybe some heavy RAM consuming applications, it's probably going to freeze up altogether. Well, that's kind of what's been going on in my mind for the last 9 months. I've got so much going on, I just can't process it anymore. My CPU is overheating and about to melt down. So when your computer freezes up, what do? Well, there's only about one thing you can do, right? You hit the reset button. Control, Alt, Delete. Well, my reset button kind of looks like 32 days in the tropical ocean. And I'm hoping that by taking all my burdens and leaving them behind on the shore as we sail away into the tropics, that I can take some time to focus on myself, to have fun, to remember what it's like to be happy again. I also hope that I can have a chance to connect with my daughter and my mom outside of the stress of life. And when it's all over, I hope that when I set my foot back on shore, that I can do so with a clear mind, knowing more who I am and what I need to do, with a fresh start. And if my life goes the way that I think that it's gonna go, I think that this trip, this vacation, is just barely dipping my toes into an ocean of adventure that could be the rest of my life. So now that you know a very abbreviated version of how I got here, I hope you can connect a little bit more with the rest of my story. So stay tuned.